conference tournaments, we don't have committees determine who the seeds are. We have to do it when you get to 64-team basketball or baseball or softball tournament, just because of sheer numbers, right? You don't have enough games played among everybody to rank the standings. And because of all the games that get played, it works okay in those sports. I question whether it really is appropriate for college football or to the level that we're asking it to act in. In a lot of ways, college football historically is a regional sport with national appeal, and we all really badly want to make it a national sport. But given the litigation environment and the challenges that come with the subjective nature of taking such a small sample size of 12 games and trying to evaluate 130 teams based on that, I think we need to look at other ideas. Whether it's the play-ins. There may be some other ideas that we haven't even come up with yet, but I don't know that the model we currently are using is ever going to be satisfactory.
Is there that 1 and 2 game, and then maybe 3, 6, 4, 5?
I think there's a lot of options.
Because then that's 4 auto bids there.
I think there's a lot of different options you can look at. Do you do just straight play-in games? Is there any reason to have championship games at that point? I don't know. Does the SEC just say, hey, we're just going to have our own deal, and that way we get away from some of the litigation concerns, and we don't have to worry about what other people are trying to, put, as their priorities on us, and we have different priorities maybe than others. It's hard to do what we're trying to do on a national level. And you remember back in the day, the Big Ten champion and the Pac-12 champion were tied in the Rose Bowl, and for a long time that worked well until everybody thought, it's really sad that like the number 1 team out of the Big Ten can't play the number 2 team out of the SEC because they're tied to different bowl games. So all of this is in effect an attempt to try to not have those days come back, but it's really hard to do it the way we're doing it. It was hard with the BCS era. None of these evolution process we've been through, none of these seem really satisfactory, and there's always somebody who feels like it doesn't work for them. And I don't know how you. I'm not being defeatist. I don't know that given the size of college football with the few number of games we play and the disparity in the quality of the different conferences, if we're ever going to get to a point where nationally it's going to make sense the way we all want it to. And so I think we have to be honest about that and be creative. And what else could it look like?
So why would 9 games becomes more appealing as a league if there are 4 automatic qualifiers? Why?
Well, if you're basing your postseason participation on conference standings, you want as many, and it's not on somebody's opinion being based on it. You want as many
matchups,
opportunities as possible to get the most representative schedule, so you can be as fair as possible to everybody.
Trev said he's in favor of 9 games if the league is protected. He said protected. He didn't say guaranteed.
That's a good way
Is
to
there
put it.
wiggle room, like where you get some assurance that is not for guaranteed bids? Is there something a world where that looks like that?
I don't know of any, Seth. There may be other options out there. The guaranteed bid seems like the most obvious one, but there may be some other paths here. But I think the sentiment that Trev is talking about is the right one, which is how do we make our postseason participation less subjective and more objective?
You think it's getting late for other options?
It does seem like we're against the clock a little bit, and so maybe there's got to be another interim step, of evolution. They made the decision to seed 1 through 12 straight up. Maybe that gets us by for another year. It's not ideal for sure, right? And again, it speaks to how complicated it is to take this sport of 130 teams with 10 different conferences, 4 of them so-called AQ autonomy conferences, and make something fit. Everyone would agree that top to bottom, historically, our league and the teams in our league play the most strenuous, most rigorous conference schedule. and it doesn't look like what other people play on a normal basis. Now, that's not saying that there's not one-offs and exceptions, but in general, that's the case. How do we, to Trev's point, protect ourselves and create a structure that makes sense and works for the SEC for sure, and if it works for everybody else, that's great, but we may not get there to where it works for everybody.
G. Hines Company. They've been around for over 100 years, selling building materials since anyone can remember.
We have an exceptional group of attorneys that work here. We're all trying to be better attorneys, be better advocates for our clients, be better people.
It makes me proud to be part of the team when I see how much the attorneys care about their clients.
It's truly one vision. I feel like every single person who works here has that same vision, and that's to treat all of our clients like family.
We've developed such a tight-knit team. Everyone is unified in being selfless in their representation.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
Favorite 14-team or 16-team playoff?
I think the more opportunities of legitimate postseason opportunities is the best for everybody.
Do you think we're running out of the day where we're trying to figure out who the best team in college football is, needs to involve more than the Big Ten, the SEC?
You know, it kind of goes back to we had generations of college football where it was a regional sport with national appeal, and there were a lot of years we never got to see the best team from the SEC play the best team from the Big Ten, and it has proven really hard to try to solve that, and we're all still trying to solve it, but it's what pro sports are able to do with the number of teams they have and having an objective way to determine who's making postseason. I think we're all trying to subconsciously mimic that, and it doesn't work with the numbers that we have and how the quality of our leagues vary. And I don't know what the solution to that is. I'm not, so from an SEC perspective, is there a way we could work with everybody to figure out a way that we think protects our league and provides as many opportunities for everybody, or do we need to look at other options?
What are those other options, like doing your own thing?
I mean, that would be one. I don't think that's what anybody, that's probably not top on everybody's list, but I mean, if you're just blue sky thinking, that would be an option, right? Have every conference do their own playoff. And again, that's not ideal, but there's some, from a legal standpoint, I think there's some advantages there because we would probably eliminate some of the risk we currently face by trying to do something across all these different conferences. But it's not, the fans want something that's going to be on the field. The basketball tournament works, even though it's not ideal to have a committee. It works because you have 64 teams that play 30-something games, and you can fairly evaluate it, and there's enough inclusion there. It works in softball, it works in baseball. The math doesn't quite seem to work in football, and I don't have an answer for it. Greg Sinke's really smart, and we're blessed and fortunate to have him, and I think he'll help figure out as good a solution as we can find. But there's not going to be a perfect solution to sport football. I don't feel like, as long as we're trying to accommodate 130 schools in Division I or 60 to 70 schools in the power conferences. I think those numbers don't work the way we all want it to.
When do you think we'll start seeing decisions? Like, there's all these lingering, intertwined issues that are obvious, and I think the sides are all laid out. But what do you think triggers some of the decision-making processes here?
Well, the commissioners for the CFP are going to have to, I would think, in the coming weeks, if not months, but I should say that opposite, in the coming months, if not weeks. Yeah, they're going to have to land on what happens after this year.
Yeah.
And that's going to drive a lot of things. It's going to drive a lot of conversation related to how our schedule lines up from a conference standpoint, and but the CFP format is, I think, a linchpin of all that.
Have y'all looked at, this is blue sky thinking, European soccer has set bids based on previous performance. Have y'all looked at that? Is there a way to
I don't know if the commissioners have looked at that or not. That is a model that there's a lot of similarities between college football in America and soccer in Europe. And I have the Champions League is really interesting. They just Premier League just finished up their season. If you follow that, they know right now who's going to be in the Champions League next year based on who finished where this year in the Premier League. I don't think we'll go from one year to the next, but like the idea that they understand, and they don't have a committee determining that. They've been able to objectively, through results and their standings, a lot who's going to get those opportunities. I think there's something there that we can learn from, and that's what the AQ conversation ties back to. But does it work in college football? That's what we got to figure out.
Scott, there's a Tennessee athlete that is sued for a 5th year of eligibility. Do you think there's merit to that, to just blanket give everybody 5 years of eligibility and take out waivers?
You know, Jimmy, that's a complicated. I mean, on the surface, I think that it has some merit, but there's a lot of other questions that you have to answer with that. What is it? What do you do with kids who transfer in from lower levels, junior colleges or NAIA or something like that? There's, it would seem like we could clean that up. So everybody's got 5 years to play 5 seasons and no exceptions. But it seems like every time we say that, somebody makes an exception. It kind of goes back to square one.
So Kirby Smart was saying the biggest issue no one's talking about is the transfer portal into the calendar. What is that a discussion with among ADs on this at any level, or is that more football coach just in that?
No, I mean it's that I think that's an ongoing concern for anybody in college athletics. We just met with some of our student athletes who are here this week, and they brought that up as a concern. The athletes themselves about the unlimited transfers, and they don't think it's healthy for the sport. Now that's a small sample size, but it seems common sense that there probably is a path where kids have some movement, but maybe not unlimited. But I think Coach Smart's right. That is something to be great. It's hard to fix that because you have 130 schools that are competitive, trying to set rules, and the courts are saying you can't do that. And so we're back to the litigious nature of what we're talking about. And so the fact that we don't have one entity like a pro league might have working together with their players to come up with the rules of engagement make it really hard. It's kind of like when you're a kid growing up and you have a neighborhood game in the backyard. The first thing you do before you pick teams is you set the ground rules, right? that driveway's out of bounds. If you hit it in the tree line, it's gone. Whatever. We can't figure out the ground rules, and that's a real problem.
He said 2 portal windows just creates tons of issues. There should be one in January. But then he says you get in this squishy area because of the fiscal year, the way it's set.
The academic calendar, and the academic calendar too. There's no easy answers.
Did anything crystallize from that conversation today? Just as you talked through no easy answers, did anything? The Big Ten sort of ended up sort of landing somewhere. Do you see yourselves going anywhere?
We got a couple more days. We may. It was more preliminary today.
What are the chances of college athletes becoming employees?
Ooh, Jimmy, that's. I don't think that's what anybody would want it to start at. I mean, that's not where we are right now. We're doing a lot of things right now, though, that none of us ever thought we'd end up doing. So it's hard to never say never, but right now I don't think that's anybody's preferred way to go.
What are your expectations for Florida football?
That's a great question. Our expectation for all of our sports is we want to compete for championships. I'm optimistic that we'll take the momentum we finished last year with and carry that into this year. And Billy's done a really good job of putting a good roster together. I think we'll have a roster that can be able to compete with anybody in the country.
But you again have maybe the most difficult schedule in the country. So how do you temper that with realistic expectations?
Yeah, that was that was brought up last year, and what you find out when you get into that, sometimes teams are better than you think they might be, and sometimes they don't live up to their expectations either. And so we'll wait and see. I think we'll have a chance to be competitive in every game we line up with this year.
You seem to be more competitive after you gave Billy Napier a vote of confidence. Do you think that was tied in?
I don't. I just got lucky, Jimmy. Timing is everything. That was. I watched a young team that was really close on a lot of games. Took Tennessee to overtime. Played. Was tied with Georgia with 5 minutes to go in Jacksonville, and just felt like I'd been around a couple other programs in my time where teams are in similar situations, and you just gave it a little more time, and those teams turned around the next year and had great years. And so I just felt like I saw some similarities there, and that this team was really close. And got to give Billy a lot of credit and his staff and the players for they got better, right? And when everybody said they couldn't or wouldn't, they got much better. Ended up winning win the last 4 games, and beat LSU, beat Ole Miss, beat Florida State in the rivalry game, and won their bowl game. So I think they enjoyed the taste of that success, and there's a lot of momentum going in this year.
You indulge a basketball question?
Oh, I'd love to. I thought you'd never ask.
Obviously, 14 bids would be difficult to replicate, so I'm not saying that's like the new standard, but do you think that the way the sport is going and the way the financials are going, that the SEC is really well positioned to be in that dozen-ish conversation every year and carry this momentum on?
Well, I would love that to be the case. Obviously, this was a historically good year, not just for the SEC, but for any conference, and a lot of credit goes to the way our universities and our schools in this league have supported basketball, but we've hired good coaches, and I'd put our group of basketball coaches up with anybody. And so my sense is, as long as we continue to make those kind of good personnel decisions, and they in turn build really good rosters, we're going to have a chance to continue to be really good.
Is there a concern as the rev share era starts that the leagues that don't have big-time football, that they don't have to fund $20.5 million, but they can fund a really competitive basketball roster, maybe more, more than you can pay?
I think that's something. Yeah, we're all going to be paying attention to that. It does seem like some of the schools in the Big East who don't have football could have an advantage there. But at the same time, our coaches, our schools do a pretty good job of being resourceful. We have a lot of resources, but you could always. There's always going to be somebody with more, right? Yeah. So, I'm sorry. The Gators this year, we didn't have the most NIL money of any college basketball team in the country, but obviously we were able to win it. So you got to put yourself in a position to have enough resources to be competitive, and then you got to execute. And there are times when the schools, the teams with the most resources could win, but more often than not, that doesn't happen.
Local Internet Pro, that's the home of Ty the Internet Guy. Owner Ty Claiborne understands that different homes have different internet needs. Ty acts as a mediator between different cable internet providers and the homeowner while catering to your internet needs. He works with the homeowner from installation through implementation to save you money. Call Ty the Internet Guy, 865-296-0285.